Hey, welcome back to Supercharge Fridays. How are you doing? We are at 143 weeks of live streaming right here on LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube. If you are watching live, comment in the comments and say, "Hi Sonal, how you doing? How was your week? Let's chat." And if we haven't met before, hi, I'm a career strategist and a former HR director with over 20 years of corporate experience. And what I do here every Friday is go live, but this is not all I do. People sometimes think, "Oh, how are those Friday sessions going?" I mean, they're going great, but this is not all I do. I do one-on-one coaching. I have digital courses, ebooks, and content like this, YouTube, podcast, all of that stuff. And the topic is always around career transitions, career change, getting something better, the next move. How do you do it? Why do you do it? Why does it matter? All of that stuff. So if you're not connected, if we are not connected on LinkedIn, definitely, give me a follow. And if you want to connect, send me a request and, tell me a little bit about yourself. I'd love to connect. And speaking of content and everything, this is such a great topic. We're going to be talking about the North Star. What the heck is the North Star? I mean, I know astronomically what it is, but there's much more to it. We're going to be talking about this with Meenakshi Iyer. Meenakshi is somebody I met when I was undergoing my coaching certification, and she and I were in the sort of the same space, and then through LinkedIn. So I bring in guests every Friday. I've been doing this for, yeah, 143 weeks now. Lots and lots of guests over the last 2.5 years. Meenakshi's incidentally been with Supercharged Fridays. I think it was December 2020, and now she is back. I'm looking forward to welcoming her. Hey, welcome back, Meenakshi, to Supercharged Fridays.
Thank you so much, Sonal. Thank you. I've always enjoyed our conversations and also following you on LinkedIn and all your work.
Likewise, likewise. I'm looking forward to today because, you know, we hear this so many times. It's become one of those cringe words that I want to unpack with you today and have our lovely audience understand this better and why it's important and all of that. So let's get right into it. But before we do, I'm going to welcome the audience. And while I do that, give us that 60-second intro about you, what it is you do, and how do you help people.
Absolutely. Thank you again, Sonal. And hello, everyone. Um, I like to describe myself as someone who loves to be and thrives at the intersection of people, process, and technology. I've been in the technology space for more than I would say all of my career, which spans about 25 years. And I've done different things. So my career, Sonal as a career strategist, you would find this. I think I'm a proud owner of a jungle gym. So my career has been anything but linear, and it's interdisciplinary. So I worked in various capacities in technology implementation, primarily healthcare technology and enterprise systems implementations. I'm a lean, agile, human-centered design practitioner, and I'm also a trained ESL teacher. Yeah, English is a second language teacher. So what I do right now is I finally found a way to bring all this together in support of people, and I particularly support mid-career technology leaders in their people and change leadership journeys. And I work with folks who speak English as an additional language, folks like myself. So that's what I do. And I serve as a personal agility and self-leadership coach at my coaching practice, which is NorthStar Solutions and Services. One other thing is, given my experience in the lean agile space, I focus on helping leaders and professionals bring those frameworks from the world of product and software development into how they lead themselves, their teams, and their organizations.
Okay, fantastic. So much here. So, did you say the intersection of people,
Process and technology.
processes, and technology? Lovely, lovely. And for people for whom English is their second language, so this is very nice. It's a very specific niche that you have. It's different from what other people are doing. So, someone who's watching today, what Meenakshi succinctly described her, like, when you meet people in a party, hey, so what is it? What do you do? You give this explanation hundreds of times, right? But also think about what makes you a little bit different. without going out of your way. And this is how Meenakshi described it. The way she does it is a little bit different. So that is super. And I think we have a few people here. Thank you guys for joining us live. This is so exciting. We have, I think, people from around the world: Slovenia, India, Italy. I think this is Meenakshi. You're also the Meenakshi with the X
Yes,
who's
Meenakshi
watching us.
Punjabi. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Adina is in Romania. I This was a friend of yours, I think. Sharon's Sharon's. I'm pretty sure I'm butchering her name. Poor thing.
Crescent's Moch.
Crescent. Good Lord. I thought I'm good at pronouncing names. Welcome. Thank you guys for being here. We have Canada here. Hey, Sajid. Lovely to see you.
Hey, Saji.
Malaysia. This is so awesome. We got like pretty much from all around the world. So we are really respect the time that you're giving us today. We're going to get right into it. Enough chit chat. All right. And in case you missed it, I'm just going to highlight this. Meenakshi Swam is called North Stars. I mean, how appropriate is that related to our topic? I know, Meenakshi, this sounds really corny, but I couldn't help it. I can't help it. So
I
let's
was
talk about,
chuckling when I saw your post.
so let's talk about it, Meenakshi. The North Star, right? What is it? Why does it matter? We're going to get into all of it. But first, tell us, what does it even mean? Follow your North Star. I don't know what to follow. I don't know where it is. I think I have a compass, but explain to us. And how is the North Star different from having your values, having your ethics, all of that?
Absolutely. So I do want to get into a little bit of science. See, I'm a student of science, so I have
Let's
to
nerd away.
get
Let's nerd
yes, I have
away.
to nerd
Yes.
out a bit. And as you rightly pointed out, the North Star or the Polaris, right? So that's the name of the star. Why is it called the North Star? Because it is the way it's located. It's directly above the Earth's North Pole, the geographic North Pole. Which, by the way, when you talked about the compass, is different from the magnetic North Pole. So the magnetic North Pole is based on the Earth's magnetic field, which can shift every so many years, whereas the geographic North Pole, which is the axis around which the Earth rotates, that is always a constant. Which is why you'd have heard people say the true north, right? Because the
Ah.
true north is different from the magnetic north, and your compass is aligned to the magnetic north.
So magnetic bad
No, it's
versus
not good
true
or
north
bad. It's
good.
just
Like tell us, like
two things.
explain, because I'm nerding out a little bit more, and I hope this is interesting also for our audience. Before, because the true north, right, we always hear this word, but I never actually knew the real meaning behind it.
Yeah, so the true north, and actually you can go to the NASA website. Here's a link.
Okay, for those who really want to get into it, Meenakshi will share the website, the link specifically from NASA. I mean,
I sent it to you, Solar. I wasn't able
oh,
to
you
access
sent
the
it. All
comment.
right, all right.
So
I'll
that's
put
the
it in the
whole. The
comments.
reason I'm bringing that up is the North Star is a constant. And this is so early days when people would seafarers would use the North Star to really
Yeah,
be sure of where they are. This is
yeah,
even before the compass,
yeah,
right? So it's always there. It's your constant. So to your question about how different is it from your values,
yeah.
I will say that your values over time can change. So if I were to say your values are a little bit like your magnetic North Pole, whereas who you are, what is your essence, and what is it that really brings you alive in terms of being and doing, that is your North Star. And so to me, the true north is the direction. So this is the other thing, right? From a scientific standpoint, true north is the direction that points directly towards the geographic North Pole. It's a
Yeah.
fixed point on the Earth's globe. So your personal North Star is that fixed point. So whenever you feel lost, confused, upset, you are or in a state of contradiction, if you pause and think about what is it that you want to do and why you're doing it, that's your North Star. And I do want to get into it a little bit more. Is that um, I don't know if folks are familiar with. There's this Toronto-based company called 21 Toys.
Mhm.
It's the word 21 Toys. 21 stands for 21st Century Skills.
Mm-hmm.
And the founder is Ilana Benari, and you can follow her on LinkedIn. The company is about 10 or 12 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And what they do, they have like, they are in the space of uh, training and development using toys. So
Yep.
they use toys for what textbooks can't teach. That's their tagline. Um, Her TED talk, so she talks about how, imagine if you were to close your eyes and if you were to describe a color to someone who cannot see it. So the whole idea was around how do visually challenged people navigate. So this is called orientation mobility. And that's where those three questions really stayed with me. Where am I now? Where do I want to go? How do I get there?
Mm.
So to me, defining that, like every time you think about that, that to me is your personal North Star. So where am I now? Where do I want to be or go? And how do I get there? And what do I use to navigate myself in that?
Mm.
That's my personal North Star.
Mm. Wow. So, there's a lot I'm taking away, but just to briefly summarize what you said, right? Did you say North Pole and then the North Star?
So the star is located at the geographic North Pole,
Geographic North. And what is the other one? The magnetic?
the magnetic North.
Is that a star or is that the pole?
No, neither. That's the direction. That's your
That's the
magnetic
direction.
north, which is
Magnetic North.
aligned with your magnetic pole,
Okay.
the Earth's magnetic
So
field.
that's interesting because you said that the values, right? Our values are like the
Magnetic north, yeah.
magnetic north, right? And the essence, like the really like the things that don't change about us, um, that is the true north,
Yeah.
right? That's what I'm taking away. So
Yes.
hopefully there's a lot more. This is such a big topic that it's a deep topic and it's very nuanced and layered. So we're going to be covering this in 30-40 minutes, so we obviously can't go deeper than that, but hopefully this is giving already plenty of food for our lovely audience here to chew on. So understood, Meenakshi. And why does this matter? Why are we talking about this today?
Uh, so one is whether we care to admit it or not, whether we care to realize it or not, one of the big differentiators of the human species is that we have this ability to think for ourselves. We
Mhm.
exercise free will, and we are driven by purpose and meaning to a large extent. We may not all see it manifest in our lives in the same way because of our personal circumstances, how we are raised, where we come from. You know, there's a lot of factors that go into that. But um, I believe that each of us is driven by a sense of purpose.
Mhm.
And what we do, and especially if when we become aware of the privilege that we already have or the privilege that we are born with, I think it allows us to dig deeper into why we do what we do. And I think that's why it matters. And I also think with my personal experience has been that it's also evolved over a period of time. It's evolved with how my career has shaped up.
Mm.
And there came a point in my career where I had to really like hit the brakes
Mm.
and really think about what is it that I'm doing and why am I doing this and what is the legacy that I'm leaving behind. And so there was a point about 4 years ago when I really started thinking about those things, like, okay, what is the meaning of all this, right? Because I've been doing this, I've been in the hamster in a wheel for so many
Mm.
years
Mm.
in my professional life. And I hit a point where I noticed that I was doing one at the cost of the other. So I was living my professional life at the cost of my personal life.
Mhm.
So there's an inflection point. I have seen that a lot of us hit that at various stages in our lives and careers.
Yeah.
So to your point about why does it matter, I think uh, that's a that's a purpose of being human, I would say, right? So if we don't realize it, then I don't know, what is that Einstein quote, life not examined is not worth living, something like
Mhm.
that. So
Mm.
I think that's why it matters. And I think that each of us has uh, a set of privileges. We also are born with certain talents, and we acquire skills. And I think that we owe it to those around us to put that to good use. And I think that's why it matters. That's why finding what your North Star is matters.
Absolutely. And I think what you said about like it hitting you 4 years ago, um, for everyone, it's different, right? The catalyst and the
Yes.
inflection point for some people, it's actually been COVID,
Yes.
being stuck in the middle of a global
Yes.
pandemic and saying, my gosh, I'm still alive
Yes.
and I do something because I need the money, but gosh, there's more to life, right?
Yes.
Whatever it is, different things for different people, or, I love dance. Yes, it's a passion. Yes, it's a hobby. But I think I can monetize it. I think that can be my thing. Okay, what are we going to do about it? So all of that. And I see a question already. So I'm happy to go there. Bagel, how do you find the North Star? That is a brilliant question. That is what we are going to be doing like next. That we're going to be touching upon that. In the meantime, Sajid says, hey, so can we take someone else's North Star to guide us? Maybe because we don't yet identify our own.
Yeah, that's a great question,
Mm.
and I'm actually thinking about it as you said that, Sajid. And I would say, my experience, I have to run my own race. So I always think about the Olympic track and field events. If you're a runner, one of the reasons why you would get disqualified is you crossed over from your track. So being in your own track and running your own race, that's important to me. So for me personally, I don't think I can take someone else's North Star, because that's taking them somewhere else, right? So that's not where I want to go.
Yeah. And I think the answer also lies in what you just said. We've got our own race to run. So my destination might be 50 meters before Sajid's.
Yes.
So the
Yes.
North Star can literally only take you so far, literally,
Absolutely.
right? And then at some point we have our own. But it's a brilliant question. So someone who's listening today, right? The cynic. Don't we love our cynics? I mean, they keep us sharp, right?
Absolutely.
They keep us like we stay on our toes because of these people. By the way, we're all cynics once in a while. Like, this sounds great, but you're a cynic if you've got the but, a big but. Oops, that sounded wrong. Anyway, how do you balance the need for financial security with that of this whole purpose, blah blah,
Yes.
beautiful, cloudy fuzzy stuff, especially in the world we live in today?
Absolutely. I think about it a lot, especially because of my own pivot. So I left my full-time job on my own accord without a plan. And I had a little bit of savings, and that was about it, right? And I live in the
And
US.
everyone said you're mad.
Oh yeah, yeah. My mother still, she's only coming around now, but she still wonders how I make money.
Yeah.
Which so that's the other thing, right? There are so many realities of life. So I live in the US, where your health insurance is tied to your employment.
Oh
So
yes,
yeah,
yes.
right. So the day I left my job, well, that's where. So I also had to really become aware of what my privileges are, right? So I'm
Yes.
privileged in that my spouse is employed full time, has insurance. I could get on their insurance plan. I'm able to afford where I live, and I had enough savings. And there were other life circumstances that were a point of privilege for me. And so I had to go through this journey of, okay, do I think so? I started was, oh my gosh, I am so privileged. So I don't think I can, I'd be, I'd be very selfish and very irresponsible if I started using my privilege. So I had to continue doing what I was doing, which is,
Mm.
keep my job, pay my bills, be that hamster in a wheel, because that was the right thing to do. That's what I should be doing. And it took me a long time to get over that hump and then start thinking about, okay, I have this privilege. How am I using it? right? Just to be of service to others, because that's the other thing I do want to also call out, that a lot of times when you talk about living your purpose, more often than not, it comes from a service mindset. You want to be useful to others. You want to create value and impact for others. Uh, the call out I do want to make there is, make sure you include yourself in your stakeholder community. That was the other journey that I had to sort of go through, where when I started NorthStar Solutions and Services, I was only thinking about the 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 community that I would serve. I really didn't think about myself. So that was another journey that I had to go through, because it's the oxygen, the airline principle. You have to have the oxygen mask for yourself before you serve it to others, right?
Mm.
So you can't pour from an empty cup. So think about that as well, which is what ties back to being very clear about where you stand. What do you have right now? So remember those three questions: where am I now? Where do I want to be? And how do I get there? The
Mm.
how do I get there, it's a process, and it can take any amount of time, and it's very individualized, it's personalized. There is no formula for that. But I will say this: I often talk about who is in your personal board of directors. It's not an original concept, something I've read and heard about, and it really was something that resonated with me. So, who's in my personal board of directors? One thing that I have learned is to include a financial planner in my personal board of directors. So, they have a coach, a mentor, and a financial planner.
Mm.
Just talking about, thinking about what will it take me as an individual. Um, Another call out for married women or women who are in a relationship. This is something I read. A financial coach actually said, and this is an India-based coach who said, um, uh, don't consider your man to be your plan. And that kind of stayed with me, right?
Yep.
So I
Yep.
am an individual, and how do I support myself, and how
Yep.
do I continue to be able to do what I'm doing right now,
Yep.
right? And taking care of my Maslow's hierarchy, right? So the basic
Yep.
needs. What
Yep.
do I need to do that? And that's why I think that being a realist uh, with a dose of idealism is what has served me well. So, in a nutshell, you have to do what you have to do until you can do what you want to do. So it's a journey.
Mm.
That preparation
Mm.
is important.
Oh, yeah. I'm so glad that you answered this with the real dose of honesty and reality here, right? Because you're living it. It's not like, oh, fuzzy, do as I say, don't do as I do. And the pile of bills gets fatter and fatter.
Yes.
And just because we don't pay those bills doesn't mean they're going away, right? We're
Yes.
grown ups. We have to face the reality. So there's no other way to do it. You've got to do what you need to do before you do what you want to do. And not the other way around. That's
Yes.
really important. And I also want to highlight the other thing that you said, which is, where am I now? Where do I want to be? And how do I get there? The how do I get there, you said, can be a real, like, a confusing, like, stellar thing for many people. They're like, let me get a coach. But even the middle one, where do I want to be, even
Yes.
that can be like, what does that even look like, the North Star for me, right? And even
Yeah.
like the journey is so huge. And I remember when you came on Supercharged Fridays 2 years ago, almost 2 years ago, we talked about career agility. And one
Yes.
of those things we said was just see, just enough. You don't have to see the end of the road, but
Yes.
just see what's directly ahead, and bit by bit, bird by bird, take care of everything. So brilliant. And in the meantime, I also saw a comment here that Risto made, and Risto's a
Yes.
mutual connection of ours. And he says, compare with the North Star metaphor as an essence. It reminds me of Robin Sharma's three questions. Did I live wisely? Did I love well? Did I serve greatly? Wow.
How profound.
Live, love, and serve.
Yes.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
beautiful. And yeah, appreciate that. Beautiful. So, when you said married woman, whatever, somebody single right now, whatever our situation is, it's not really the point. Or is it? Or is it? Do we know anything about the North Star, living our purpose, and if there is any correlation or causality
Mm,
with gender?
yeah. I do want to respond to this. I want to start by saying that I know, and my husband and I have talked about this, is that if I were the the primary and or the sole breadwinner in this household,
Hmm.
I would still be at that job.
Hmm.
I know that. And that's
Hmm.
my reality. And that's the
Hmm.
journey I had to make, that, oh, I am in a position of privilege that I can actually willfully leave a job which was well paying. They treated me well. I had different reasons for leaving. But um, so this is where my mother was struggling to understand, why are you making this decision? So I know for a fact that if I was a sole, if I was single, not in any relationship, not
Yeah.
unattached. So if I was single, if I was the primary breadwinner or the sole breadwinner, these three conditions, I would still be at that job.
Right.
So that my point is, ac- discover and acknowledge your privilege. And that's very hard to do, and say that, okay, if these conditions had not been met, I would still be whatever, right? So your reality is different.
So I'm just going to pause you here. And someone who's watching and listening, oh gosh, Meenakshi has said privilege like 4 or 5 times. If you're watching this right now, you are privileged.
Yes.
We don't know that. We take it for granted. So Meenakshi, give us a little bit like a little loving kick on the backside. Um, because when let's say we're going through a hard time, the whole dark cloud makes us think like we're the only ones
Yes.
going through a hard time. So give us a little bit of that dose of reality on like the day to day, someone watching right now, semi urban, watching this on a phone or a laptop, um, even if they're between jobs or whatever it is, they have privilege today. Give us a reminder. What does that mean?
So when I first came to the US as an accompanying spouse 14 years ago, I came here in 2008, and I had to start from scratch. When I first came, my visa did not permit me to work.
Hmm.
I came on a spouse visa, and then I had to wait, go through the whole process. So it took me about 2.5 years to actually start working. And the day I got my work permit, I still couldn't drive because I never drove in India.
Yeah.
So I was learning how to drive, and that's a whole other story, right? So we had one car, and it was a new car, didn't want to use that, all of that. So when you think about it, there are a lot of these barriers, and we tend to focus on those. And what you water is what grows.
Hmm.
So if you keep thinking about that, that's going to be your biggest obstacle. So my way around that was, the day I got my work permit, I was like, okay, what can I do? Where can I work legally, where I can walk to work?
Hmm.
Which is next to impossible in a suburb in the US,
Yes. Yes.
right?
What were you thinking?
Yes. So the job I found was that as a barista, and I've shared this before. So I
Yes.
started working as a barista. I worked as a barista in a coffee shop, in two different coffee shops, including a Starbucks, for about 6 to 8 months. 8 months, yeah. So what that allowed me was, it allowed me to earn some money.
Yes.
Excuse me.
Yes.
And I was able to work. Yes. I didn't care what people said, what people thought. The Indian community is as close knit here as it would be in India.
And
But
as judgy,
yes, of course, of course. So that, yeah, that we need a whole other
with a whole
talk for
different
that.
topic for that.
Yes. So, however, I chose to look at, okay, what is my best option? So where am I now, right? So what are my constraints? Always be aware of your constraints and acknowledge your constraints,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
don't believe in this super anything.
Hmm.
I think this label of superwoman should be done away with.
Hmm.
Nobody is super anything.
Hmm.
We all are human. Let's
Hmm.
acknowledge our humanity, right? So what are my constraints? I don't know how to drive. Okay, what's in my favor? I have a work permit which allows me to work for anybody, any employer in this country, right? So that's my canvas. What is my other challenge? I don't have local experience. People don't know yet how to pronounce my name, so I'm not getting any calls. Nobody wants to hire me because when they look at a foreign sounding name, they're unsure of my English speaking abilities, which prevents me even getting a foot in the door.
Hmm.
So I found this job through actually someone in the Indian community who said, hey, I need some help in my coffee shop. Are you willing? So they thought I would say no, right? But for me, it was like an opportunity to make use to, this is not something I would have been able to do in India because it's considered a blue collar job. So I took full use of my immigrant anonymity to use this time. And coffee shops, what happens in coffee shops, at least in the US, saying, let's grab coffee is a thing that you do, which I learned after coming to the US, right? What do you mean, let's grab coffee? What does that even mean? That's where a lot of the work conversations happen, networking happens. People do work in coffee shops. So I had this very safe space of being that barista, but then and really having that immersive experience in workplace culture to some extent. And I didn't care what anyone said. I made my money. I learned about living on a minimum wage job, so $7.25, which, by the way, was the hourly wage until about 2, 3 years ago. And in some
Yeah.
states, it's
Yeah.
still
And you also
$7,
learned amazing. And you also learned how to make coffee.
which I didn't care about because I'm a coffee snob. I'm a South Indian who makes my own strong coffee. So that's the
So
whole
in
other
terms
story.
of here, that what you're saying is, even though you were like, you know, it looks like, oh, poor thing, she's working in a coffee shop, all that stuff that the perception is, you're saying, hello, it was still coming from privilege, right? So that's what you're saying, that there was a
Exactly,
choice
because I
made.
spoke the language.
Yes.
I was physically able to walk on my own
Yes.
accord.
You
And
are you are dispensing and destroying some of the victim mindset,
yes.
which I hate to say, a lot of us inadvertently have, because this isn't working for me, this isn't working for me. So there's so many obstacles. Define, you said define the obstacles, but we let the obstacles define us. Ooh, that was good.
Oh, yes. That's a
So
good soundbite. Yes,
yeah,
absolutely.
so that was a sound bite. And Megha says, how do you stay realistic with the dose of idealism? So we talked about that, Megha. If you're joining us late, do watch the replay. You know, I'm the opposite of this. I'm finding it difficult to take action. You want to add anything here, Meenakshi?
So my idealism is, oh, I consider myself an altruist, and I would always give. So those are my two operating principles: give before you get,
Hmm.
and collaboration over competition. That has
Hmm.
served me well, particularly as a solopreneur.
Hmm.
The shift that I have made is I would give, give, give. Now I know
Hmm.
when to stop, and I
Hmm.
without guilt, because I've
Yes.
done my piece
Yes.
and I will meet you halfway, right?
Yes.
So, and I know, Sonal, you and I were chatting about this in the green room earlier. When we start out as coaches, people tend to think that, what the heck is coaching, first of all, right? And then, how difficult is it? It's, after all, it's just a conversation. So can we just do it for free?
Trust.
Do
Yeah. Yeah.
you go to a doctor for free? So
Yeah.
a coach also puts in the work. So I started claiming my worth and my value, and that shifted. So
Yeah.
that brought the realism to the idealism. That's an example, Megha, that the give before you get. Yes, I still follow that, but then I know where to sort of taper it down.
And while still respecting yourself. So
Yes,
Megha, definitely connect with Meenakshi. It seems like, you know, this message is really resonating. And Sajid says 30 minutes is not enough. I agree, it's not enough. And I think, I'm not sure if I had one more question, but there's one other comment that I wanted to say hi to Marty, because Marty's in Chicago and she's watching this early morning.
yeah.
Hey, I
Thank you.
appreciate your approach to setting parameters for what works for you. You're right. Being able to walk to work is very
Very
difficult,
difficult.
particularly in suburb land, right? If you live in the
Yes.
city, like, it's totally doable. So this was an example, right? There's so many others that we need to acknowledge that we have something going well for us, and then start from there, and not start from a place of, oh, you know, woe is me, the world is against me, and things aren't going my way. So amazing. So just want to wrap up very quickly, but before I do that, Meenakshi, so I highly recommend that people follow you here on LinkedIn. Let me see,
I
where is
I
the
just
web.
want to touch on this.
Yeah.
I don't know of any research around living your purpose and how it affects different genders, but I will say
Uh-huh.
that um, the we all talk about pay equity. We all talk about how the disproportionate load of chores, household chores, and caregiving responsibilities on women, regardless of culture, geography,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
sexual orientation.
Yeah.
Uh, so there was this piece of trivia on LinkedIn that came out like August 29th, 2022. all women, we have already done our entire year's share of unpaid labor. So we can stop and get everyone else in the household to do all the other work. So the point is, when it comes to even taking the time to figure out what your purpose is, what you want to do, women more often than not generally have less time to dedicate for themselves.
Mm.
Two, even if women make money, there are still cultures and geographies and families, because I don't want to generalize at the culture and geography level, where women may not have the freedom to spend the money that they earn.
Mm.
Right. So these
Mm.
are all again points of privilege. So for me, that's something I consider a big point of privilege for me, is that I have complete freedom on how I spend the money that I make. Right. I even joke with my husband, like, my money is my money and your money is our money. Don't follow that advice. It's just a joke. But I've been very,
If you wanna stay married, don't say that.
the point is, throughout the time that I have been unemployed, like when I started NorthStar, throughout that time, I made sure that I lived off of my savings. I
Mm.
kept up my credit score. That's
Mm.
the other thing in the US,
Yeah.
right? So these are things that you owe to yourself, right? So I think that men and women, I think women are historically and disproportionately at a disadvantage because of how our societal structures are, how roles are so gendered,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So that's what I have experienced and I have
Yeah.
seen. I don't know
Yeah.
of any research.
Yeah, no, I understand. I understand. I highly recommend if you guys are still here and you're still watching us, thank you. You're amazing. It's 36 minutes into the live stream. Follow Meenakshi right here on LinkedIn. And Meenakshi, a little bird tells me you also have a program related to North Star stuff. Like, tell us about it.
Absolutely. Oh, I don't have it here today. So when I first started NorthStar, before I started, I wrote down everything, and I still go back to that diary and I look at what I wrote. I wrote down why, what, and how.
Hmm.
Why do I want to do what I want to do? And what is it? What will it look like? And who am I serving? What is my target intended audience? By the way, I'm intentionally trying to avoid using words like target and deadline, because
Mm.
the etymology of these words, they're wartime vocabulary. So I'm trying to not use that.
Mm.
Um, yeah, language is so
So
powerful. Words are so
they do
powerful.
more harm than good.
We don't realize it, right? We so
Um,
use all these words. Similarly, words like blacklist and whitelist.
mm.
These all have uh, roots in the
Right.
less than desirable
Yeah.
places. So
Again,
allow
that's
list.
a whole episode just on that.
Yes. So being what is my intended audience and how am I going to do, so what will I do, like what is that delivery going to look like, right? So some things I knew when I started, when I thought about doing NorthStar, is that I wanted to work for myself. So my intention has never been to build a company and employ other people. That has never been my intention. I want to work for myself, work as a solopreneur, as an independent consultant. Why do I want to do this? I realize that I value the things I value a lot at work. And this is also, Daniel Pink talks about it in his book Drive, right? Autonomy is one, and mastery over something, and autonomy. And the drive for me comes from that, the autonomy in terms of not just working hours, but also what projects I work on, who I work with. And it has to be very impact driven for me, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I wrote this down, and then I started thinking about it, and it slowly emerged into one of the frameworks, the foundational frameworks of my coaching practice. So I have a tagline, which is find your pod, POD, which is an acronym, find your
Mm.
North Star, and
Mm.
that's the one of the signature programs that I offer to individuals
Mm.
that I work with.
Okay,
Um,
amazing, amazing.
yeah,
So if
so
anybody wants to know more, to just follow Meenakshi right here. Everything is there. The website is there, and find out more about the program and the framework. And I also want to add here, we have a viewer here from Grenada. I think it's the first time I'm reading like a comment from Grenada. Carlisha, thank you for being here. I'm so glad this is helpful. And Gayatri says your story about working as a barista is so inspiring, and she wants to, like get more into that. And Rakesh says, do you think being assertive is more important? So I'm just going to end this quickly because we're, running out of time. But starting with being assertive about your own North Star, about where you stand, is a great place to start, right? And I also want to add that assertive, aggressive, there's a clear difference. It's not a fine line, it's a clear difference. And it's important to know that what that difference looks like for you. And finally, Risto says, these privileges and constraints, when you're thinking about the latter, how do you look at these constraints in a positive light? It's a wonderful book too, a beautiful constraint. I've heard of it that can shed some
Mm.
light on those who are struggling at the moment. And there's another one, The Obstacle is the Way.
Oh.
I forget his name. Oh my God, Ryan Holiday. Beautiful book as well. So thank you so much for sharing here, Risto. So before I let you go, Meenakshi, someone who's joining late or someone who's a little bit tired, has been listening from the beginning, and life's hard right now. What are you gonna like say to this person before we let everybody go? Before we walk away, what's the biggest takeaway you want us to keep with us?
Um, be aligned in your head, heart, and hands, or head, heart, and gut. So the state of being is where your head, heart, and your gut, these are the three intelligence centers in your body. This is where the most number of nerves come together. These are nerve centers in your body, that they're aligned, and you know it. And there's a concept called the whole body yes. Please Google it. Conscious Leadership Group does a lot of work in that.
Did,
Catherine
did you say
Hendricks.
whole body? Yes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So you know it. Think of the time when you said something, when an idea came to you and you were like, yes, I want that. That was your first response. That's what a yes looks like. I never want to do that again is a
Whole
complete
body,
no.
no. Heck no.
Heck no.
Another bad word, no. Yes. We
Yes.
know what you're talking about.
And then
Starts with F.
and sometimes you're like, I'm going to do this just to get along. That's your little no,
Mm,
right?
mm,
So think
mm.
about that. And that's a good indicator of whether you want to embark on this or not. The state of doing. So this is your state of being. The state of doing is where your head, heart, and hands are aligned. So that your say do gap is the lowest, is as close to zero as possible. So you are what you're thinking, what you're feeling, and what you're doing are in harmony. So to me, that is your uh, best way of finding and living your North Star.
Wow. 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 I'm so glad I asked this question because this itself, like you dropped so many gems right here. If it's not a whole body yes, it's a heck no.
Yes,
It's really black and white. And does that mean you can't do that job because you need the job because you need to pay the bills? No, we're not saying that. Do what you got to do what you need to do before you get to do what you want to do. That's fine.
absolutely.
That's fine. But the head, heart, and hands. And what about the hands? We talked about the intuition of the head. Something about, did I miss that?
So to me, the state of being is about your head, heart, and gut, which is also the concept in Enneagram. But then when you're thinking about how you're doing, what is it? How do you translate
Doing,
that being into doing?
doing
Then it's
hands.
your hands. Yeah.
Wow. Amazing. Amazing. This is so helpful. If you enjoyed watching this, if you enjoyed listening to Meenakshi right here live, please share this live stream with a friend. Share it privately. Don't If you don't want to tag them because it's public on LinkedIn, share the YouTube link. Follow Meenakshi for more. There's way more that where that came from. Meenakshi, this has been amazing. Thank you so, so
Thank
much for
you.
your
And
time with us today.
thanks to everyone for your comments and questions and your engagement. Loved it. Thank
As
you so
always.
much.
Thank you, everybody, for being with us again on Friday. Same time next Friday, 21st. Yes, 20. My gosh, this year is flying away. 21st October, I'll be right here, either with a guest or on my own. I'm not sure yet. But till then, take care of yourselves. And until next time, have a lovely Friday and a lovely weekend.
Take
Bye,
care.
everyone.
Bye.